The wind howled through the jagged peaks of the Rockies, carrying the bite of winter's last breath. In a small cabin, nestled against a snow-dusted cliff, a woman named Clara knelt by a fire, her hands steady as she stirred a pot of steaming broth. Her auburn hair caught the firelight, glowing like embers. She was no stranger to solitude, having fled a life of constraints in the east for the wilds of the frontier. The cabin, built from rough-hewn logs, was her sanctuary, its walls lined with dried herbs and furs. A storm raged outside, rattling the shutters, but Clara's focus was on the man lying on her cot. His name was Elias, a mountain man, broad-shouldered and grizzled, his face etched with pain. He'd stumbled into her clearing 2 nights ago, blood seeping from a bear's claw, marks across his chest. Clara, trained as a healer by her grandmother, had worked tirelessly to clean and stitch his wounds. Now his fever was breaking, and his eyes, sharp as flint, followed her every move. "You're a stubborn one," she muttered, ladling broth into a tin cup. Elias grunted, his voice rough as gravel. "Takes one to know one, woman." Their eyes met, a spark of defiance passing between them. Clara handed him the cup, her fingers brushing his calloused palm. Outside, the storm screamed, but inside, something quieter was stirring, a connection forged in survival. Elias sipped the broth, his gaze never leaving Clara. The warmth of the liquid steadied his trembling hands, but his mind churned with memories of the bear attack. He'd been tracking elk when the Grizzly charged, its roar shaking the forest. He'd fought it off with his knife, but not before it tore into him. Stumbling through the snow, he'd seen the faint glow of Clara's cabin like a beacon. Now, here he was, alive because of her. "Why'd you help me?" he asked, his voice low. Clara shrugged, wiping her hands on her apron. "Couldn't let you die out there, not Christian." But her eyes betrayed more, curiosity perhaps, or something deeper. Elias studied her, noting the strength in her hands, the resolve in her jaw. She wasn't like the women he'd known in trading posts, all soft words and softer spines. Clara was different, forged by the same wildness that had shaped him. "You got no man here," he said, not a question. Clara's lips twitched. "Don't need one." He chuckled, wincing as pain shot through his ribs. "Fair enough, but you're stuck with me till I'm mended." Clara raised an eyebrow, but a smile ghosted her lips. The fire crackled, filling the silence with warmth. Days passed and Elias grew stronger. Clara changed his bandages, her touch gentle but precise, her herbal salves soothing the angry red gashes. She taught him the names of the plants she used, yarrow for bleeding, comfrey for pain, and he listened, captivated by her knowledge. Outside, the storm had calmed, leaving a blanket of snow that sparkled under the weak winter sun. Elias began to sit up, then stand, his towering frame filling the small cabin. One morning, he insisted on chopping wood, ignoring Clara's protests. "I ain't no invalid," he growled, axe in hand. She watched from the doorway, arms crossed, as he split logs with powerful swings, his breath clouding in the frigid air. His strength was returning, but so was his restlessness. Clara felt it too, a pull toward something undefined. That evening, as they shared a meal of venison stew, Elias spoke of his life, trapping furs, roaming the mountains, answering to no one. "Ain't no place for softness out here," he said. Clara met his gaze. "I'm not soft." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "No, you ain't. That's why I like you." Her heart quickened, but she turned away, hiding her flush in the shadows. The cabin became a world unto itself, where time was measured by the crackle of the fire and the rhythm of their conversations. Elias told stories of narrow escapes, blizzards, wolves, rival trappers, while Clara shared tales of her childhood, learning remedies from her grandmother in a small New England village. She'd left that life after a suitor tried to cage her spirit, demanding she be a proper wife. "I'd rather die alone out here than live chained," she said. Elias nodded, understanding in his eyes. Ain't no chain can hold a soul like yours." His words lingered, heavy with meaning. One night, as Clara stitched a tear in his coat, he reached for her hand. "You saved me, Clara. Ain't many would have." She pulled back, but not before his touch sent a shiver through her. "Just doing what's right," she murmured. But her dreams that night were restless, filled with images of Elias's hands, his voice, his promise. Outside, the stars burned cold, and the mountains stood silent, witnesses to the bond growing within the cabin's walls. By the third week, Elias was nearly healed, his wounds now pale scars. He moved with purpose, helping Clara haul water from the creek and repair a loose shutter. Their work was a dance, each anticipating the other's needs, yet tension simmered beneath their camaraderie. Clara caught Elias watching her as she braided her hair, his eyes tracing the curve of her neck. She felt exposed, yet not unwelcome. One afternoon, as they tracked a deer through the snow, Elias stopped her, his hand on her arm. "Clara," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "I ain't one for pretty words, but you're more'n I ever thought I'd find out here." She froze, her breath catching. The forest was silent, the snow absorbing all sound. "You don't know me," she whispered, but her heart raced. He stepped closer, his warmth cutting through the cold. "I know enough, and I swear, come spring, I'll make you a mother if you'll have me." The words hung between them, bold and raw. Clara's mind spun, torn between fear and a longing she hadn't named. Clara didn't answer Elias that day, her silence louder than words. They returned to the cabin, the air between them thick with unspoken questions. She busied herself with chores, grinding herbs, mending socks, anything to avoid his gaze. But Elias was patient, his presence steady as the mountains. He carved a small wooden bird for her, leaving it on the table one morning. Clara turned it over in her hands, marveling at the delicate wings. "For you," he said simply, and her walls softened. That night, as they sat by the fire, she spoke of her fears, losing her freedom, herself to a man's promises. Elias listened, his face serious. "I ain't asking you to be less, Clara. I want you as you are, wild, strong, free." His words struck deep, stirring a hope she'd buried long ago. She reached for his hand, her fingers trembling. "I need time," she said. He nodded, his grip firm. "I got time, long as you're here." The firelight danced in his eyes, and Clara felt the world shift beneath her, rivulets that fed the creek. Clara and Elias fell into a rhythm, sharing tasks and stories, their bond deepening with each passing day. He taught her to read animal tracks, pointing out the delicate prints of a fox in the mud. She showed him how to brew a tea that eased his lingering aches. Their laughter filled the cabin, a sound neither had known in years. Yet Clara wrestled with Elias's vow. A mother? The idea was foreign, terrifying, yet it stirred a warmth she couldn't ignore. One evening, as they watched the sunset paint the peaks gold, Elias spoke again. "I meant what I said, Clara. Ain't just words. I see a life with you here in these mountains." She looked at him, his face earnest, and felt her resolve waver. "And if I say no?" she asked. He smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "Then I'll still be here, chopping your wood." Her laughter broke the tension, but her heart was no closer to an answer. Pure prompt. A golden sunset over snow-capped mountains, with a man and woman standing side by side on a ridge. He points to the horizon, his face earnest while she looks at him, her expression torn. The landscape is vast, with melting snow and a flowing creek below, symbolizing change. Elias began to speak of plans, a larger cabin, a garden for Clara's herbs, a life built together. His words were practical, but his eyes held dreams. Clara listened, her heart caught between fear and possibility. She'd come to the mountains to escape, not to build. Yet with Elias, building felt different, not a cage, but a choice. One afternoon, as they repaired a fence, he spoke of his past, a childhood in a mining camp, a father lost to fever, a life of wandering. "Never thought I'd want to stay put," he said, hammering a post. "Until you." Clara's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, but trust was a fragile thing. That evening she sat alone by the creek, the water's murmur soothing her doubts. Elias found her there, sitting silently beside her. "I ain't perfect, Clara," he said, "but I'm yours, if you'll have me." She looked at him, the mountain man who'd survived a bear and her own guarded heart, and felt a decision forming. The days grew warmer, the snow retreating to the highest peaks. Clara and Elias worked side by side, their partnership seamless. He built a new shelf for her herbs, and she stitched a new shirt for him from a bolt of cloth she'd traded for. Their touches lingered, her hand on his arm, his fingers brushing, her hair. One night, as a full moon bathed the cabin in silver, Clara spoke. "I'm scared, Elias," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of losing myself, of what it means to be a mother." He took her hands, his grip warm. "And sure, you won't lose yourself. I'll make damn sure of that. And a mother? You'd be fierce like you are with everything." His words were a vow, not just of love, but of respect. Clara felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness, but from the weight of possibility. She leaned into him, her forehead against his chest, and for the first time she let herself imagine a future with him.